Good morning. Can you see me? Today we are going to be chopping and propping a whole bunch of plants. I have a list here that I made. So we got all of these that are ready to be chopped, propped, or repotted. And then this part of the list are plants that are almost ready, but not quite. So we'll get to those eventually. But for now, I'm going to start with my string of hearts, which is right up here. So here's my pot. It is a square ceramic pot, no drainage. I'm going to give it a nice little drink before we cut it up. But my vines are about 6 feet long at the longest point. So we're going to have a lot of propagations, and I'm very excited. Alright, here is the string of hearts. I don't know if you can see, I think you can, but we got some pretty beefy tubers down here. It's mixed, there is some leca in this, so some of these little balls are leca, not their tubers. But I'm pretty impressed with my growth in here. I wasn't sure how it would do in no drainage, but I think it's happy. So I'm just gonna start chopping. Something that you always want to make sure you're paying attention for with string of hearts is that when you're chopping long vines like this, you want to keep them going the right direction. So the top, or the end, is one way, and the part that is closer to the top of the plant is another way. Because if you put them in your vessel upside down, they won't root, obviously. All right. So I do have quite a bit of these blooms starting. Oops. Let's see if I can get a little closer. So this here is a bloom that is about to open. So I'm gonna cut that off. These blooms aren't very impressive or anything, and I don't need seeds from this because it's so easy to propagate. So I don't really care to keep the blooms for these. So since I have so much length here, I'm not too worried about cutting up every single node that has a little tuber started, because I'm going to have 100 propagations anyways. Some people will go as far as to separate each individual pair of leaves to start, because they will start in the soil if you have them all separated. Each little tuber will do its own thing. It just takes a really long time that way, and I am a pretty impatient planty person, I'd say. All right, let's start. All right, so the bottom I have facing towards me. I do this over a paper towel because these ends will actually kind of leak out and drip a little bit of liquid because I watered it. So propagations usually do a lot better when the mama plant has been watered prior to cutting them. It gives them their best opportunity to live. They get something to drink before they have their roots removed. What else does that help with? Yeah, it's just a more effective way to start your plants. So I've been thinking a lot about like a dream job that's plant related. And to be quite honest with you, my dream job would be to take care of someone's conservatory, or like somebody that wants a jungle house, but they don't want to put the effort into it, so they need like a gardener or somebody to come and take care of it once or twice a week. And then I can use those places to take cuttings for myself and my specimens. I can mix in my own specimens and things like that. But I think that would just be the coolest job. Like, I'm thinking about, there's an Instagram account, JC Chris, I want to say it is, and she just has these incredible plants climbing all the way up the wall, and I just know there are people out there that want their pool house to look like that, or you know, they want a room in their entryway to be like a jungle vibe like that. Or like a giant plant wall with all sorts of exotic anthuriums and stuff. I would love to be the one to take care of those. And I say that because I don't know if I'm the type of person that really wants a jungle house. I definitely love having plants in every single room in my house. But I don't like having plants over my bed. I don't like how the leaves and dirt will drop in. You know, I just don't want that where I sleep. And sometimes jungle homes kind of freak me out about the bug situation. Like, I don't think I would like knowing that there's going to be that many bugs in my house, because plants always come with bugs. You can't avoid that. So I don't know if I would ever end up with a jungle house. I'm sure I will in some format eventually. But I would love to care for somebody else's. So if you live in the Southwest and want to hire me, my inbox is open. Alright, it's getting more tangled now, so I'm going to just do a lot more blind chopping rather than picking through meticulously defined good tubers and ends to make sure they're all the same length. It'll buff out. Though I will say, a tuber like this, that's what you want. Something chonky. You know I said just Here is my final result. It's a little over 1 foot long. That was the first chop that this string of hearts has had since I got it about 1.5 years ago. Actually a little more like 2 years ago now. No, it was 1.5 years ago. So yeah, super pumped. I was thinking about repotting this, but I think it's doing really good in here, so I'm just gonna let it grow out from this chop and see. I'm hoping that by not repotting it, I can get some bigger leaves, more mature leaves maybe, I'm hoping that leaving the roots will let them, like I said, mature a little more. Sorry, you can't see anything I'm doing. I'm just detangling it. Alright, so now that I got everything cut, what I'm going to be doing is picking up a couple of, they're all stuck together. Let go. I'm gonna freak out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a handful of these cuttings, probably like 4 or 5 at a time, and I am going to strip off about 4 inches of leaves. And I'm just going to do this by like running my hands down the vines. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but these vines are pretty tough. I don't notice any bad, like, shit. You didn't see what I was doing, did you? Alright, I'll do another one. Okay, so what I like to do now with these, in order to fit them in these test tubes, I take about 3 or 4 inches of the vine and I just peel off all the leaves. So the vine is naked and all the leaves are off. I'm just gonna throw the leaves out. They don't propagate or anything. But I peel them off because if you do not and they sit in the water, they'll make the water really gross really quick. So I want these to be in there for a while. I'm going to be out of town for a little bit, and I don't want to have our dog sitter worry about any of my plants. So I want these to be self-sustainable for a while. Oh no, I'm dropping some. I'm not gonna know which way's the end now. Alright, now that we got everything chopped up and in their little test tubes, I'm going to fill them with water and I'm going to show you where I'll hang them for the time being. These test tubes have kind of just bounced around my house. I only need a thumbtack to hang them up, so I really hang them wherever I feel like, which is cool, but eventually I'd like to find a permanent home for them. cut my Hoya compacta. So nervous. It's gonna be my first cut for this guy. She has had a few other vines thicken up, but none of them have really gotten long like this one. So I'm kind of hoping that this might encourage some growth for the rest of the plant. Oh. So I decided to cut it too because I had, like I've mentioned in other videos, I've had some pest problems this past year, so this bald spot, the leaves just kind of shriveled up when they were little. They were either thrips or flat mites, or I'm not really sure. So, but I decided that would be a good place to propagate it anyways, because I can stick this in dirt. Usually you have to remove leaves anyways when you propagate. I think this will be good. And then my donkey's tail had a branch that must have gotten pinched off while we moved or while it was up against the window here. It already has roots growing off of this, so I'm going to cut right where it was pinched. Oh, oh no! Look at it! So here, come on, you can kind of see where the roots were. And I literally just held my blade where it was pinched off and it just fell off. It was so ready. So what I'm gonna do here is peel off some of these excess leaves. And then there's like a second bald spot right here that I'm gonna cut as well and peel those leaves off. And possibly another piece. I might do like 3 pieces from this and see how I do. I want them all in the same pot. I'm gonna try and fill out a pot with this. But this plant is overdue for a chop. You can see how shriveled these poor leaves are. Hopefully it'll have no problem sprouting new roots and picking up some moisture. So these are the 3 pieces I've ended up with. So the long one with the original roots, and then these 2 chops from the same long branch. Cleared off some of the dried shriveled leaves, and I am going to stick all these in dirt all together, just like that. They'll be sticking up for a little while until they get long enough to hang over the edge. And I am going to pot them in this no drainage pot. This is something that I got from the Dollar Tree several years ago. But this has been a great terracotta pot. Like I said, no drainage on the bottom. I actually kind of prefer this sometimes with some succulents because once the soil gets really dried out, the water will just run out the bottom of the drainage hole. So when there's no drainage hole, I know that if I give this, you know, like a 1/4 cup of water, that water's in there. It's not going anywhere. So I know that my succulent is getting at least that much water before it dries out the sides of the terracotta. But I do really enjoy these pots. So if you are somebody that, you know, has been ingrained in your brain that you can't use pots that don't have drainage holes, it's not true. You just have to change how you care for your plants or change what plants you're putting in those pots. All right, the next step is to plant stuff. So for this little Hoya compacta piece, I'm going to put it in just a 2-inch pot. These are the types of pots that like the cactus come in at Home Depot. I like these for propagations, though I do find they can be difficult to keep moist enough. So you really do got to stay on top of your watering when you're using smaller pots because they dry out more quickly, which isn't good when you're wanting new roots to grow. If new roots dry out, then they will shrivel off and rot. So I'm leaving it a little below rim. I don't need a ton of soil, and I'm just going to stick this little stick down in there. I'll top her off a little bit. I'm not using a very fancy soil mix for this. This is just like an indoor-outdoor soil blend with some extra added perlite. I mixed it up for one of my cactus that I planted last night. So I'm just going to use it for these guys. So I peeled off some of these leaves, and they are in the bottom of this pot, but I'm not too worried about it. Little organic matter isn't going to hurt anything. Honestly, it'll probably be beneficial in the long run by the time its roots actually make it down there. So with the no drainage pot, I am going to be careful not to overfill it with soil, because when I water this in, no water is coming out of the bottom, and usually that's how you get your soil to settle and kind of compact down, is you water it all the way to the brim and let it settle down. You kind of water it again. So I won't be doing that here. Let's see. I think I'm going to actually lay this guy down a little bit. So I'm going to put him on the back side of the pot. And these guys I will face the same direction. That way I can hang this on a shelf or something like that. Alright. There we have it. There's my babes. And before I go and put these on my shelf, I'm getting into labeling. I found these labels on Amazon. They wipe off and wash off really easily, which is cool. I reuse a lot of jars and things, so knowing that I can put a label on them that I can wash off with just dish soap and like minimal elbow grease is awesome. I just write the ID on there, so Hoya compacta, and then the date that I planted it. So today is the 21st. Oops. So that's what I wrote on there. And this one, I'll stick my sticker to the bottom. So, and this is a donkey's tail. It is different than a burro's tail. And I'll show you how they are different. Alright, so this is the difference. This is the donkey's tail that I took cuttings of, and this is burro's tail. So the difference that I see mainly here is that burro's tail has a little bit bigger, longer leaves, and they kind of create a scaling look down the vine. Whereas donkey's tail, the leaves are shorter and they kind of just spay outward. Both are very pretty, but burro's tail is the one that people are generally looking for. And donkey's tail is oftentimes the ones that they find at like Home Depot or wherever they pick up little bitty succulents. And they look very similar when they're small if you don't have them next to each other. Or if you don't know what you're looking for. Here's my little Hoya babe. So it's got one leaf and then this little tiny vine that just poked out a couple weeks ago. Hasn't grown any leaves yet. But yeah, she a cutie.